You've stretched your hip flexors, you've done your glute bridges, and it felt better for about 5 minutes, but it always came right back. This video explains exactly why that's happening and what to actually do about it if you want to get long-term relief. Your tight hip flexors are not the root cause. In most cases, they are a result of the pattern that your entire body, your entire system is stuck in as a result of things like the modern lifestyle. For example, when your pelvis is tilted forward, an anterior pelvic tilt that 85% of the population has, your hip flexors are stuck in an overactive state because they're holding you there. Over time, your nervous system and your body has decided that this is the new normal and it's always going to revert there unless you break the chain. So you stretch the hip flexors and they feel looser for a few hours, maybe even a day, but the underlying system has not been changed at all. The rib cage is still positioned the same way, your pelvis is still tilted the same way forward, and you're still walking, sitting, eating, breathing in the same way that has created this pattern of tightness to begin with. As soon as you go back to normal life, as soon as things get stressful, which they will, your body is going to recreate the tension because that's the only position it knows to maintain long term. That's why you've been stretching your hip flexors for years and you still don't feel any better. Muscle isn't the problem, it's responding to a movement pattern. If you change the pattern, your body will no longer need to hold on to that tightness to feel safe. That's the entire difference. Instead of forcing muscles to relax, we change the inputs that force them to become tight in the first place. Most people fail because they're missing one or more pieces of the puzzle. To get lasting change, you can hit three things simultaneously. The first issue is fascia restriction, or the body being physically unable to access a more loose position long term. Over time, your connective tissue system is going to remodel to whatever inputs, whatever the most common position your body is in. If you spend years forward and your pelvis is tilted forward, your rib cage is compressed, the connective tissue around your hips, your abdomen, your spine, your lower back are all going to adapt into this position. If you think of fascia like a shrink wrap around the body, it thickens and stiffens around lines of repeated tension. Eventually, the pelvis isn't just choosing to tilt forward, it's physically being pulled there because your fascia system has become stuck. You can consciously tuck your pelvis under you, feel a little bit better for a couple of seconds, but your nervous system always reverts to this anterior tilt position. You cannot stretch and strengthen your way out of a position your body physically cannot access. Those restrictions must be released first. The next issue is autonomic guarding, or how safe your body feels letting go from the neurological standpoint. Your posture is ultimately controlled by your nervous system. So if your brain perceives instability, injury, a lack of control, it's going to clamp down the areas it perceives as having most of that instability, which for a lot of people is the hips and the lower back. Muscles around the area remain switched on around the clock because it's the only way your body knows how to find safe. And that's why aggressive stretching always fails long term. You can temporarily force the tissues to lengthen, but if the nervous system does not accept that as the new normal, it's going to recreate tension as soon as you stand back up. Before lasting change can occur, the body must experience repeated bouts of low exposure of these new areas. Number three is structural weakness. Sometimes there's just nothing holding up the new changes. Even if you restore mobility and reduce guarding, sometimes you just don't have the strength to control that new space and you're just still going to revert as a result. If you understand the first two, you can achieve good posture temporarily, a couple seconds, maybe a couple minutes even. But the moment the attention shifts, your body is going to revert to the easiest position, the least. Your body will always default to the strongest, most efficient position it knows. So if the muscles responsible for supporting the pelvis and the rib cage and the lower back are weak or uncoordinated, the old pattern is inevitably going to return. Mobility creates the opportunity for change, but strength is what makes it stay. That's why lasting postural correction requires all three in the right order. You must restore tissue mobility, calm the nervous system, and then build strength to own those new positions. Miss any one of them and the body eventually reverts to the pattern it knows best.
This is the inner adductor fascia release. So what you want to do, take a thumb or your knuckle. You want to go into where this inner thigh muscle, this muscle right here, the adductor, runs along the inside of your thigh. It attaches to your pelvis like right here. This point right here, you want to find the soft tissue here, not the actual like sinewy joint or the connective tissue. You want to go about an inch above. So find this adductor, follow it all the way to where it inserts pretty much into your ball sack, and go up an inch right here. Now put pressure in here. This is going to feel extremely tight, like right here, if you have any sort of pelvic tilt, any sort of guarding issue. Now what you want to do is kind of just put pressure, rotate your foot internal, external rotation, internal, external. You might feel a pinch. Just fight through that. It's going to get better. This is the point of this release. Once you do that, you also want to move. So instead of going an inch above, you want to go an inch below as well. So inch below, same thing. This is tighter for a lot of people. This spot is tighter for me. So inch below, rotate, and do that on both sides. So again, for the right side, find your adductor, your inner thigh muscle, follow it all the way to the insertion. You're going to feel a really stiff piece of tendon here. Do not press on the tendon. You go up 1 inch, apply pressure, move your foot. So that is the adductor. Now we actually want to reposition the pelvis into a neutral position by activating muscles on the back side of the pelvis, like the hamstring and the adductor. The setup, as you can see here, is laying on your side in a 90-90 position, 90 degrees at the hips and the knees with a foam roller between your knees. I'm also supporting my lower ribs with a rolled up towel and my head with a pillow, just so there's no unnecessary tension. Once you're here, you want to start with a big exhale through the mouth, pretend like you're letting water out of a faucet, and then as you do that, squeeze the foam roller downwards and drag your heel backwards against the wall. You want to make sure the foot is not too high and it's not too low. You want to just about parallel with that foam roller. After about 10 seconds of holding that hamstring movement, you now want to drive your knee forward and push your foot into the wall to activate your glute. Again, holding this spot for about 5 to 10 seconds and then rotating to the other side.